Good morning. Welcome to this Monday edition of Shields and Arrows. I am Pastor Mark Baze, and here on Shields and Arrows, we defend the faith, the family, and the fellowship. We cover all sorts of topics as long as it impacts our culture, our family, and obviously, most importantly, the faith. But with that being said, let's talk about a few things going on as we are trying to engage with the culture, hoping to turn the tide, get them back to a more biblical-based view. Once upon a time, it seems like our culture was stronger in their Bible knowledge and biblical principles, and somehow it's been lost. Let's try to get it back. Now, every single news site is going to be talking about the event that unfolded between Vladimir Zelensky and Donald Trump at the White House in the Oval Office. And you know what? I guess I'll give my thoughts too, because I know you've just been waiting all weekend long. What does Mark think about it? Now, I am a preacher. I'm not a politician or news reporter by trade, but I do think some of these things matter because truth is we live in a society. Politics is the matter of the people, so these things do affect us whether we like it or not. Now, we thought what was going to happen was Zelensky was going to come to the White House to sign a mineral rights deal, and there was a long Oval Office presser. And over the course of the presser, things did not go great. Zelensky had a lot of concerns. Now, we could contribute the best of motives to him. Maybe he genuinely felt in his conviction that what he was about to sign was maybe not best for the people, and so he was really trying hard to shore up the security and safety of Ukraine, right? Let's just give him the best motives as possible. The problem is in some of the discourse of that, there had already been an agreement made, and Trump as well as J.D. Vance were somewhat frustrated that it seemed like there were all these extra stipulations that Zelensky wanted to impose upon the agreement. Now, Zelensky, who has been fighting Putin for some years now, and once again, I'm trying to give it the most balanced and fair presentation I can, okay? Zelensky, who's been fighting Putin and has lost many men due to the Russian invasion, does not have any loss of love for Vladimir Putin. So he, made a number of statements regarding the character, the person of the Russian president, dictator, whatever you want to call him. And while he may have been speaking out of conviction, and some of the things he said may not have been too far off the proper understanding of things, as far as just measuring Putin as a person. It is not great when you're trying to negotiate an agreement to just insult the other party involved, which is what Trump tried to express. Now, maybe Trump and Vance could have been more long-suffering with Zelensky, but at some point, it got to the point where they realized that due to the discussion and the rhetoric, the likelihood of Russia coming to the table, if this is how the discourse is going to be done, well, it's just simply not going to be beneficial. And words were exchanged that Zelensky was really seeming to try to be litigating and negotiating and critiquing, complaining about the deal being presented right in front of the press, which is typically done behind closed doors. And when called out on that matter, Zelensky suggested that, well, if the United States doesn't adhere to his recommendations and his requests, then they will quickly be feeling the pressure of Russia. To which Trump did not appreciate that and responded that Zelensky will not be telling them, the United States, how they will feel. The United States will feel secure. And things pretty much went completely south from there. There was more heated language. Voices were raised both by Trump and Zelensky to a degree. Zelensky seemed like he was not expecting such a strong response, mostly because he's been used to going to Joe Biden for the past 4 years and just getting checks written to him whenever he wants. And so things resulted in no mineral deal being signed, Zelensky going to Europe, and he's now seeking money from the Europeans. Now, let's talk a little bit about the things that have transpired here. First of all, for all the people clutching their pearls and thinking that this is a horrible and terrible thing, we have been so accustomed, so used to our president and politicians being a pushover and just handing out bags of cash anytime somebody comes and asks for it. You have not seen somebody be willing to say no. That's what you get with Trump. Trump is willing to say no. If it's not a good deal, then he's not going to get on board. So for everyone who feels horrified at the event that transpired, how unprofessional, right? That's not very presidential. What you're seeing is somebody who's standing their ground and has a backbone, okay? Sadly, the idea of men negotiating and doing tough negotiation has been lost to a degree. And it's associated with toxic masculinity or just ugly dealing, things like that. The truth is, the world is kind of a rough and rowdy place, okay? If you are not willing to stand your ground, if you're not willing to have a little bit of backbone, you're going to be a pushover. And I think that's what America has been for a good while now. They have been pushed around. We have been just adhering to whatever request anybody wants. And of course, that's one reason why inflation's as bad as it is currently. I say all that to say, Trump is trying to get a deal done. Now, I voted for Trump. I haven't hidden the ball there. I've endorsed Trump ever since he was in the primaries, even with my favorite candidate, Ron DeSantis, in the running, just because I knew Trump was going to be the one that could win. Trump is trying to get a deal done. You may not like the deal. You may not like the fact that Russia is going to essentially get to keep the land that it invaded, Crimea, Donbass, those things. You may not like the deal. Russia invaded, after all, they were the aggressors. Interesting history there. Certainly NATO has expanded. I'm no fan of NATO, really, but regardless, yes, in 2021, Russia invaded. So one of the questions I've continued to ask anytime we venture off into this hypothetical scenario in which we're talking about, well, it's not a good deal, it's not a good deal, Ukraine should not concede such things. What is the alternative solution? How do you get this fighting to stop? Trump's been very adamant. He said it all the way back in the debate, I believe. I want people to stop dying, right? That has been Trump's position. How do we get people to stop dying? Now, wars can end by victory. I mean, that's how the United States, the Allies, won World War II. They won. Is it possible for Ukraine to win this thing? What would it take for Ukraine to win? Ukraine doesn't have enough men, and that's one of the things that J.D. Vance pointed out, that they don't have enough men to win this war. We could give them all the technology that they could possibly want, but we've been giving them quite a bit of technology, and how far has it gotten us? Not real far. Not real far. They have maybe invaded a little bit of Russia, but they haven't taken back the land that Russia has taken from them. So what does that lead us to? Sounds to me like it leads to boots on the ground. Do we want to send American troops to Ukraine? And for all of those who say, no, you're making this, all Zelensky needs is weapons. No, he doesn't. Weapons are not winning the war for him, okay? Weapons are not getting the job done. If they would have, then he would have already, repelled Russia and took the land back. He's going to need more. As in American soldiers marching in Kyiv and heading their way to the front lines. Is that what you want? I don't think anybody wants American troops to get involved in this thing. We don't even want, I think Trump doesn't even want Ukrainians involved in this thing. He wants the Russian men to stop dying. He wants Ukrainian men to stop dying. He wants peace in the world because, hey, when the world is at peace, less likely for things to go awry. So what's the alternative solution? Do you continue to support the war? All Biden did was call Putin names, and then he would just write checks to Zelensky. What good did that do to bring the war to an end? Nothing. And furthermore, it hardened Putin's heart, if you want to use a biblical term, to any negotiations. Why is he going to negotiate if he's been being called, all of these ugly names? Which, hey, you don't get to power in Russia by being Mr. Nice Guy. So, to me, also considering Zelensky, I don't think he wanted a deal. Zelensky, who knew who Zelensky was before the war? Did you ever hear of Vladimir Zelensky? Did you know who he was? No, you had no idea. This war has been his claim to fame, okay? The photo ops, the pictures of him in the fatigues, wearing the plate carrier, the helmet, like that is what has made him famous, okay? He's become a darling of the liberals because reasons. Fighting Russia, Trump is a Russian stooge according to the liberals, so therefore, if you follow this path, Zelensky's the hero because Trump is Hitler. So it always comes back to. It always comes back to Trump is Hitler. And so they really like Zelensky, even though when Trump was in charge, Vladimir Putin never took any ground at all from Ukraine. But under Democrat presidents, he did, as well as George Bush. Of course, George Bush nowadays is probably voted for Kamala Harris. Anyways, moving on. It seems to me like Zelensky may have got what he wanted. He did not want that deal. He doesn't want to bring the war to an end, possibly. Now, maybe he does. Once again, I need to try to be more balanced, at least in this hypothetical situation. But it seems to be the case that he would rather get more money to fight than to actually get a deal. Now, maybe he just thought the deal that Trump was offering wasn't good enough. He wants the land back. How is that going to happen? What deal can you offer Putin for him to give up the land? Because you're not going to take it from him. I mean, the United States could if they wanted to, but we're not going to do that. So maybe he really wants to win. Maybe Zelensky just really feels convicted about this, that he needs to win the war. He hasn't shown that he has the ability to do it. He just can't. Not on his own. Not even with our weapons. This is actually quite amusing because remember Trump was wanting them to pay their fair share, right? You need to pay the European people for NATO. Trump has been wanting Europe to hold up their end of the bargain to support and fund NATO. In maybe a roundabout way, Zelensky's almost doing that. Zelensky's now going to the Europeans, and I believe the United Kingdom said they would give something like $2.6 billion to Ukraine, which is a drop in the bucket compared to what the United States has done. But now Zelensky's going around, trying to pick up bags of cash because, hey, the honey hole dried up with Biden. Trump is now mean and not just giving him whatever he wants, and so now he's turning to the Europeans. That's about the state of things. Truth be told. I think time will tell how things play out. I think eventually they're going to make a deal. I think Zelensky will come back and they will settle this thing. I hope. I don't want the war to continue. I don't think that's what, hopefully that's not what Zelensky wants either. And maybe he wants to win by victory, but we just don't see it being possible. So there's my comments on the whole thing. I don't think that it was a wise move for Zelensky to come in there and try to insult the president in the Oval Office. At least say something that he would perceive to be an insult. Because when you say the deal's not good enough, hey, you're talking to the guy who, wrote the art of the deal. All right, now let's move on from here. I want to talk about an article that is on not Christianity Today, thank goodness, the Gospel Coalition. And it's an article over the current statistics concerning Christianity and religion in general in America. Thought it was an interesting article. Of course, we'll see the things that it tells us, and then we're going to also consider the things that it doesn't tell us. And sometimes when it comes to statistics, it's the things they don't say that are actually maybe more interesting. Okay, so let's go ahead and consider what this article has to say as we investigate this. All right. The nuns have plateaued, and 3 more takeaways from Pew's Religious Landscape Survey. Now, the nuns would be, I believe here, the non-religion affiliated, and so they've plateaued here. So let's see what the statistics currently are. Number 1, the decline of Christianity and the rise of unaffiliated have stalled. Okay, so it's certainly true statistically. Christianity has largely been in decline as far as the percentage goes. When you look at the line graph, here you go, right? It's slowly trending downward. And the rise of religiously or Christian unaffiliated is going up. But that does seem to be at a plateau right now. So Christianity, they've lost what they've lost. The nones, the unaffiliated, have gained what they've gained. So here is the breakdown here. 62% of U.S. adults describe themselves as Christians. All right. Now, that's a very broad umbrella. That's not, this is lumping Catholic and everybody all together. So 40% are Protestant. I want to know what that 3% means there. So Protestant, are we just saying that's some form of non-denominational as well? Are you including non-denominational churches, or is that 40% affiliated with some kind of denomination? Because I don't think that's right. I think that the non-denominational modern evangelical churches are on the rise. So I would think that it almost has to include it. I don't know that the 3% would make up for that. But 40% are Protestant, 19% are Catholic, and 3% fall into other Christian categories. Maybe, I don't know, are you throwing like Amish, Mormon, or not Mormon? They shouldn't have counted Mormon in this one. Amish, Mennonite, maybe things like that. 29% are religiously unaffiliated, 5% are atheists, 6% are agnostic, and 19% identify as nothing in particular. You know what that means? I guess they're nothing in particular. They're spiritual, but they're not religious. And then another 7% for the United States belong to non-Christian groups. So you got Jewish, 1% are Muslim, Buddhist, or Hindu. That is surprising. I would honestly imagine that the Muslim number is higher than that. I'm a little bit suspicious of it, especially with how many people have come in. Why Muslim is not a larger percentage. I'm just telling you right now, when I go to the city, and I try to avoid public places when I can, but let's say that for some reason it's Christmas time, my wife wants to go shopping at the mall, I don't know. It seems to me like there's a number of Muslim women. You know, it's easier for me to tell, at least for me, who's like if a woman's Muslim than a man, because like it seems like the men will often dress the same. But I don't know, it's interesting. So the article goes on, what does this mean? It's like we've hit the pause button. For Christians concerned about the church's future, this can be seen as a glimmer of hope, a moment where the bleeding has stopped. But just because the decline has stalled doesn't mean the church is out of the woods. There is still a major challenge ahead. The survey shows younger adults are much less religious than older generations. Unless there's a spiritual revival among younger Americans, the overall religious landscape will likely continue to shift as older generations pass away. And so far, no generation has shown signs of getting more religious as it ages. This means that over time, religious affiliation could decline further. This is interesting. I'm curious to see what the statistics are going to look like in about 15 years. In about 15 years, well, so here's the thing. A lot of the people that are most active in serving in churches are 70 years old. Really is the truth, okay? They're 70 years old. They are 70 years old is an interesting age. Now, not all 70-year-olds are created the same, okay? Some 70-year-olds struggle a little bit more to get around, but there's a lot of 70-year-olds who can do a lot. There's 70-year-old men who do repair work on our van at the church. We've got 70-year-old women who clean the church. It's almost exclusively 70-year-old women. They clean and care for the church. When you look at ages, there are 70-year-old people, a few 60s, very few 50s, honestly. Very few, especially talking about like my church, because I'm thinking about people in those age brackets, like few. Not there's none, but few. And then you get down into the 40s. There's a few in the 40s, maybe more so than the 50s. A few in the 30s, and then it gets really hit or miss from there. Guys, the people who do most of the work, and here's another one, most of the giving in the churches, all right? The reason the lights are on is because of the 70-plus people, right? 70-year-old and up. A what happens when they're gone? In 15 years, how many of them will we have with us? I don't know. I mean, hopefully all of them. I mean, hopefully they all make it to 85. But just statistically speaking, when you're at 85, you're over the average life expectancy. So let's even expand beyond that. Let's just say all our 70-year-olds live another 20 years. They make it to 90. How many 90-year-olds do you have in the church? At some point, we're going to lose the older population, and we're an older country anyways because we're not having kids. What does that look like then? I think that one point that they're making here is a very serious matter, that younger adults are much less religious than older generations. If the trend holds, and I'm not saying it will, I'm not being a total doomer pessimist here, but if the trend holds and nothing changes, it can get really bad really fast. I mean, churches will have to shut their doors because they won't. I've said it before. If you want to know who is giving to the church, or maybe even who tunes into ministries, who care, right? I mean, I look at a lot of people who tune into this ministry consistently. You're people that support us. Go to the business meetings. Go to the church business meeting and see who's there. Those are the people who are supporting the church. And you know the vast majority of them, they're 70 and up. They have been the ones holding the line, keeping the lights on, keeping the doors open. It could get really bad really fast, people, in a big way. So first of all, let me tell you this. If you're a part of that demographic, if you're 70 plus, eat healthy and exercise because we need you. I'm sorry, but right now the younger generations aren't picking up the slack, okay? We're going to need you to hold the line a little bit longer. So there's that. Sorry, I know you should be able to enjoy a little bit of your fruits of labor, but I guess the work's not over yet. Let's go ahead and look at the second point. Religious switching is rising and the church is losing ground. In America's religious marketplace, people are switching beliefs and denominations more than ever. Religion is often viewed primarily as a personal choice, a tool for self-help, or a place to find community. As a result, people shop around for the faith that fits them best. You know, I'm actually going to say that's not a bad thing, because it means that people are thinking and investigating. There's some streams of theology that we'd be better without, okay? Unfortunately, I am worried, a lot of them, they may be leaving their more doctrinal-based, not correct doctrine, but at least doctrinal-based churches for, well, the churches I make videos about. So that's not good if they are leaving those things. But what I am curious to see, though, how many people are saying, okay, I've been sitting in this Southern Baptist church here in the same old spill. I'm gonna go try out the local Methodist church. See what their doctrine's like. Methodist will be maybe a little bit heavier on doctrine, maybe a little more Calvinist. But then again, Southern Baptist churches have been poisoned with Calvinism too. They say, well, I'm going to go try, let's try even a step further. Let's go try out the Presbyterians. And they really, and hopefully it's a conservative Presbyterian church, not a progressive Presbyterian church. And they're trying these different things. Hey, let's go try the fundamental church, or, the independent church. I think that's not a bad thing. I think people investigating, exploring the possibilities. For all of you who think that I'm doing the Clark Kent curl on purpose, okay, or the Superman curl, all right, just watch, okay? I'm trying here, okay? So there we go. We'll see how long it stays. All right, for all of you who think he's doing it on purpose, he's trying to look like Superman. It's just natural. I can't help it. You are who you are. All right, let's go ahead and continue on with more of this article here. But here's the tough news. The church is still losing more people than it's gaining. Many young adults raised in religious households aren't staying in the faith as they grow older. And for every American who converts to Christianity from another faith or no faith at all, 6 others are leaving Christianity behind, either becoming unaffiliated or joining a non-religious, a non-Christian religion. Now, this is where I want to say, remember, statistics show a lot, but not everything, okay? A lot like Moneyball. Remember the movie Moneyball? Or you know, the format of, hey, let's just look at the stats. To a degree, yes, you need a high on-base percentage, but you also have to have the guy who just has sheer grit, okay? Michael Young, who was a baseball player for the Texas Rangers, he played second base, and he played short, and he played third, and he played first. He was also known as Mr. Clutch, all right? He won the batting title a few times, or at least once I know of. But the big thing about him was, in a big moment, if you needed him to get a hit, the man would get the hit, okay? So statistics show a lot. They don't show everything. This is the part of the article where I'm actually going to say, I'm going to maybe be optimist. Because here's the thing. I'm going to look at the people here, right, who are with us right now. Okay? I see a list of names. I also know there's people listening too. How many of you would actually fall in it if you were doing the survey? How many of you might actually fall into this unaffiliated? How many of that is you? And you're not counted as Christian. Now, maybe the article is technically saying, and this is where I could be wrong here, but if we're talking about purely, you know, related to, if they're just saying, hey, do you identify as Christian? You would probably say yes. Now, there's some of you who are so persnickety about the Bible, you would say, well, we got to be careful about context there, because I'm not going to call myself a Hebrew. Maybe the term Christian has some interesting connotations to it. Now, I would say I'm a Christian because I believe Jesus is the Son of God, the promised Messiah to Israel, the Savior. So I'll use the term. It doesn't bother me. I'm wondering, though, how many people who maybe were called by the survey and they said, do you attend a church? No. Do you affiliate with Christianity? Maybe you would even be tempted to say, I don't know, I'm not sure. How are we defining it? Because if I'm looking at these churches today, whatever I'm seeing, I don't know how I feel about saying I affiliate or associate with that. Now, maybe I'm trying to be optimistic here. I'm just saying the people who are following this ministry, while you certainly believe Jesus is the Son of God, you believe He's the Messiah of Israel, you believe that salvation is by the shed blood and the resurrection of Christ, and that the Bible is entirely the authoritative Word of God, would you be conventional Christianity? Because you don't agree with the Southern Baptists. You don't agree with the Presbyterians. You don't agree with Catholicism. You don't agree with a lot, basically every mainline denomination. So I wonder how many people out there wouldn't even want to associate with the whole churchianity mentality. How many of you just have more of a, I don't even want to be bothered with the whole business of, what denomination are you in? Oh, you don't go to a denomination. Okay, well, how are you affiliated? What's your view? Well, people use Christian. I believe Jesus is the Savior. I'm a member of the body of Christ. I'm not saying there's a lot of you out there. All I'm saying is this survey does not say everything, okay? I don't know that the survey fully encompasses how many people may actually be believers in the gospel. Let's go ahead and read a little bit more. So, within Christianity, there's also been a noticeable shift in denominational switching. Mainline Protestantism continues to decline. They're probably lumping in Southern Baptist in there. The Southern Baptist, I would say, are technically Protestant. Some of them may argue and say, no, we're not, but they really are. That's one of the reasons evangelicalism has held steady as a share of all Protestants. A similar trend is happening now with Southern Baptists. Okay, so they're actually keeping the Southern Baptists separate here. I read the article, but not close enough before I started the show. A similar trend is happening now with Southern Baptists, whose decline corresponds to the rise in non-denominational Protestants. And that's what's happening. So here's the thing, guys. these non-denominational churches, okay, whatever church that you see, like let's just say you drive down the road, okay? You drive down the road and you see a church, modern building, or maybe it's like in an old, it used to do something else, whatever the building was, but now it's a church. And it's got some name, but the name is like it's hard to like not come up with a church name, but like we're going to the river, we're going to the gathering, we're going to the I don't know, Now Church, Next Church, Life Church. Yeah, I'm gonna start naming names now. Life Church, Fusion Church, whatever, like all these different church names that you see out there. You know what they are? They're just Southern Baptist churches essentially in their theology. And they may even give to the North American Mission Board and IMB. They just may not technically be affiliated with the SBC, but they'll do a lot of the same stuff. So, yeah, the Southern Baptists are losing churches in affiliation, but not in doctrine. They're losing churches in doctrine too. It'll happen sooner rather than later, I think. I hope. So non-denominational Christians now make up 7% of the adult population, and they're the only group that grew as a share of the U.S. population. And that's because these non-denominational churches, right, these big evangelical churches, are just taking away people from the Protestant churches, the Southern Baptist. That's all, okay? These people are just migrating. I do not think these big evangelical churches are growing Christianity that much, at least not in any consistent and lasting basis. Church attendance and religious practices are holding steady. Despite all the changes in religious identity, one thing hasn't changed as much as you might expect: church attendance. About 33% of Americans say they attend religious services at least once a month, and 25% go at least once a week. These numbers have been pretty stable since 2020. Yeah, that makes sense, because what happened in 2020, people? COVID, all right? People got used to having their Sundays. Yeah, we can just do church at home. We can just watch the service. Now, let me say this. There are people here who do church at home. They watch the service. That's because you're in the upper echelon, because you realize that the rest of the churches around where you live in your immediate location don't teach good doctrine. And so, while I would read that and say, hey, that just means a lot of Christians have realized that attending the local church is no good because their doctrine's bad, these people don't know that much. They've gotten used to not having to go, so they're just not even bothering going to the church service. So the writer of the article goes on, I've looked at past surveys of church attendance for Americans. I see a scourge of church going in the 1950s and 60s, followed by steady decline, to the point that today's percentages appear to mirror the 1940s. I hesitate to compare these statistics because the surveys aren't the same. It seems clear that weekly church going is down across the board. But I do think there's something to the point that the norm in American life has been that about a third of Americans attend church on a regular or semi-regular basis. I would say the percentage of people that attend church is not the thing I'm most worried about. It really is the affiliation with Christianity. How many young people do affiliate with Christianity? And once again, just defining the overall view: Jesus is the Messiah of Israel, the Savior for us. The Bible is the Word of God. Because I want strong churches. I want there to be a good church in every community. But I know that, there's nothing happening right now to really fix these churches. It's going to take people who are no longer putting up with the bad teaching in churches to actually do something about it. And a lot of times it's going to be the people from the outside, okay? Like they're going to start their own church, or they may go find another church, they'll leave. So just because somebody left a church doesn't mean I'm worried about it. Honestly, sometimes when I hear about somebody leaving a church, I'm almost encouraged, because you know what? They had enough conviction to do something different instead of just sitting in the pew over and over again and listening to the same bad teaching. I am worried about the statistics, though, concerning how many people I associate with Christianity, with God, with the Bible. Number 4, the religiously remixed are everywhere. Just because people are leaving organized religion doesn't mean they're becoming secular in the strictest sense. Many are crafting their own spiritualities, drawing from religious traditions, philosophies, and personal beliefs. As Tara Burton points out in Strange Rites, we're witnessing a shift from institutional religion to what she calls intuitional religion, spirituality based on personal choice and self-expression. That one is going to be problematic because it is a whole lot of personal experience. I would say you should not base your religion, your doctrine, off of personal experience, because your personal experiences are very subjective to you. You can easily be persuaded by your emotions and circumstances. And so a lot of it could really be based on just what you perceive based on what's true. Because I perceive a lot of things that aren't true, right? There's times I think my wife's mad at me and she's really not. So this idea of intuitional religion, I'm going to make my own religion as I go. I don't know, it rings a little bit to a Garden of Eden type esque, right? You shall be as gods. It says 86% believe people have a soul or spirit beyond their physical body. That's good. I do think that's good. At least they acknowledge that there is a world out there, a spiritual world, something beyond the physical. 83% believe in God or a universal spirit. At least they believe in a creator. This does show us, one of the things that I do like about this is the thing I like about this is atheism is not winning the day. See, back in the early 2000s, atheists thought that they were going to dominate. They were going to take over because you had, Richard Dawkins and Stephen Harris and Stephen Hawking and all these big-time religious or anti-religion atheist people. Atheism is bankrupt. It has no legitimacy, and you're seeing that reflected in this survey, okay? Who are the real thinkers in the world? All the real thinkers believe in something beyond the world that we see, okay? They are most often Christian, but sometimes they can be other religiously affiliated type people. Atheism is not winning. Atheism is on the decline. And then when the last days come, everybody will get religious real fast. Unfortunately, they'll believe in the wrong Messiah. So that's an interesting survey to me. Like I said, I wonder what it doesn't show. How many people are not being counted as Christian who do not associate with denominations or even attend a local church? How exactly was the survey? Just as simple as, do you describe yourself as Christian? That makes me wonder. If it was that, certainly that would probably mean there are a number of people that are in decline in affiliation with Christianity. But when they read this one right here, what's that 3%? I don't know what that other Christian category is. There's just a lot here that I'm wondering, what is going on under the surface? This is not me being able to read the tea leaves of this survey and figure out where are things going to be in a few years. I just want to know, for those who are not mainline Protestant, not Catholic, and furthermore, who are being overlooked somehow in the method and means of this survey. It makes me wonder. It really does make me wonder. So it'll be interesting to see how things play out in the years to come. All right, everyone. I'm going to cut things a little bit short today because we're in the month of March, and that is the month in which we'll be doing our Bible conference, where we will be addressing common Bible study mistakes. We will be doing this live on YouTube and Worshipify. You'll be able to watch it March 28th through the 30th. But also, if you want to attend, I would love to have you. Now, here's what I am asking you to do, okay? I'm not a smart man, so I don't know how to make like an online registration necessarily. I just haven't done it. But we are feeding you, okay? And we're trying to get an idea of how many people will be there Friday night and Saturday, okay? Friday night and Saturday. So what I really need you to do, okay? If you go to Mark Baze Ministries, all right, markbazeministries.org, and if you go down here to the email, right now I'm just using my Gmail account, send me an email and let me know. You don't have to say, hey, Mark, I'd like to come, but I'm not coming. I'm sorry. You don't have to do that. I understand, traveling and all these different things. But if you are coming, I need you to send me an email real quick, okay? Just go ahead and do it right now. All right, if you are absolutely coming Friday night or Saturday, okay? Because those are the days we're feeding you. So if you're going to be here, I need you to let me know, okay? Just say in the email, really simple, I will be there Friday and Saturday. I will only be there Saturday. I will only be there Friday. Just so we know how much food we need to provide, okay? So we can get a good idea, all right? I may try to do an online registry at some point soon. I don't have one. You can register all the way up, basically the day before, just as long as I know how much food I need to get. So just keep that in mind. If you could do that for me, I really would appreciate it. And that would help out a lot. All right, well, thank all of you for joining us on this Monday. A little bit of discussion. Tomorrow we'll be back for some more, maybe getting some more like deep theology. But I just thought it'd be interesting to take a look at how things are going on in the world with world powers, whatnot, and also looking at that matter of statistics concerning Christianity and churches. And while there's reasons to be concerned, I think that there's also reasons to be excited. I think people are thinking for themselves. That's one reason why they are shifting around from these various churches and denominations. Let's win by giving good sound doctrine. Yes, I use the word win. How terrible, right? No, I want good doctrine to win the day. So let's stand for it here at Shields and Arrows. That's what we're doing, defending the faith, the family, and the fellowship. Thank you all so much. We'll see you tomorrow.